liberate him. The Holy Quran does not leave you any room to impose your own decision upon him. If he meets the conditions laid down in the Holy Quran, you have no choice but to liberate him. Have you ever heard of such master-slave relationship anywhere in the world?
No.
It's unbelievable. So many openings are made for the slaves to go out. And the inlet is only one, that of a fierce war. But there also the Holy Quran repeatedly lays a condition that you cannot do to your enemy what the enemy doesn't do to you. People don't observe this. It's a most beautiful and most effective measure to prevent all evil practices in war relationship. It plugs all holes. It says that if enemy transgresses against you, only then you have a right to transgress against him. If enemy insults you, only then you have a right to insult him. If the enemy kills you in a certain way, which is not proper, only then you can use that improper manner, but exactly to the extent that the enemy has done to you. Not an iota beyond, and repeatedly warns that if you must revenge, do it up to the extent that enemy does it. Now this is the principal teaching which governs every other provision. And according to my understanding of this provision, I believe that if an enemy at war does not mistreat your women or uses them as their wives, etc., does not permit free relationship with them to their soldiers, then you have no right to do the same things to their women. So this permission is also conditional, because the conditions I am mentioning, the overriding conditions, are common and repeatedly emphasized. So that is why I say they are overriding conditions. Now that is one side of the picture, and the other is those who claim they are the champions of freedom of slaves and emancipation of mankind, much later than Islam, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, what were they doing? Enslaving Africa, poor African people and others, and sending them en masse like herded sheep or other cattle to America for selling them in American markets, and they had no right whatsoever. Read the history of those slaves, you'll be absolutely, you'll be tortured to read that. It's a thorough punishment to study that history. They have no right whatsoever. You can put them to labor day and night. You can ask them to do things which you will be ashamed of doing yourselves. While in Islam, the Holy Prophet tells, according to in the light of the Quranic teaching, warns us that only take that much work from your slaves which they can easily perform. You cannot overload them. You cannot overburden them. Never take any work from your slaves which you yourself are ashamed to do. If you can't do it, you can't take it from your slaves. Then he says, apart from feeding them alike, sometimes ask your slaves to sit on the table and you serve them. Have you ever heard such a teaching anywhere? About the enslaving of a free person, like I mentioned in the history of Christian peoples dealing with poor Africa, the Holy Quran, Hazrat Muhammad ﷺ warned. He said, God, those people whom God hates most, among them are those who capture a free man whom God had created free and turn him into a slave. You see? How more emphatically it could be denied man the right to enslave anyone else. The Holy Prophet says God hates those people most. There are some people whom God hates most. One of the categories, anyone captures a person who was born free by God, and this man enslaved him. So this proves that my understanding of the Quran, as I said, that there is no way of making any slave except under a certain condition, is right. It is fully supported by Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah. Okay?
Thank you.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
How's your hockey?
We lost badly on Wednesday, I'm afraid.
I think your average age
Is losing.
is about an Ansarullah's age, isn't it?
At 36.
Call yourself Khuddam, I know that.
Yeah, at 36.
But the average age you have in that team is Ansarullah age.
I think you're right.
But first of all, it was all right because it was the first stage of Ansarullah. Now your team is entering the second stage. This is the problem. You see? So do something. I have been warning you for last many years. For God's sake, have new recruits from among the youth. Allah's blessing, of course, it was that He granted you some victories, which you didn't earn, of course. But how long? After all, the laws of nature do take over.
I'm in the finance committee today, and I'll try to put a budget so that we can put more investment into Khuddam hockey, sir. If that's okay with you. Is that okay?
Good. Now, what is your question, please?
In the 10 years that you've been here...
Arshad, you are exception to the rule. You will never get old. He's very young, you know, always. MashaAllah.
In the 10 years you've been here, I've only asked you one question, so can I take this opportunity to ask you two?
One about your getting old or
no.
not?
We'll do that privately.
Okay.
The first question is an observation which I would like a comment or views from you. Doing tabligh nowadays, I tend to find that a lot of people within the Christian and the Muslim world, we've got all the arguments for them. We've got all the books that back us with what we need to do. But what I see today is that a lot of these people aren't either Christians or aren't Muslims. And they believe in some other religion, some sort of spiritualism or faith healing, stone healing and tarot cards and things like that. And a lot of Westerns are actually involved in Buddhism and Hinduism. We don't seem to tackle that. And we don't seem to tackle those people because they are the majority now in England. I mean, even at schools, they don't teach Christianity as such. They teach all the religions, including these type of religions as well. But we don't seem to have enough knowledge on those to...
Why not?
There just isn't enough information available.
You see, this is not happening accidentally. This is happening out of a design. They want to amalgamate the whole society into something nondescript, whereby they will not be disciplined by their own respective teachings. So everything is all right. You see, do something of this and something of that. This is how they are attempting to amalgamate the non-Western societies with their own, so that there are no taboos in any respect and they mix up without any regards to the instructions from God or God's teachings. So this is a very cunning ploy by them. In the name of freedom, everything is all right, go ahead, do something of Buddhists, choose something of Hindus and this and that. These attempts are not new. They have always been a conspiracy against God. And whenever they are attempted, for a while they work and then they fail. There is not something new. Don't believe that it has started happening only in this age. At Akbar's time, he himself attempted to create a